Welcome back to Sahara TV. My name is Rodolfo Okonkwo. His tweets make news. His press releases are breaking news. He has been described as President Goodluck Jonathan's brain. He is the proof that government critics are not going to perform any better when given the chance to serve. His official title is a Special Advisor on Media and Publicity to President Goodluck Jonathan. Whatever you think of him, more than anyone else, for good or for bad, he defines the government of President Goodluck Jonathan. Dr. Reuben Abati, welcome to Sahara TV.
Yeah, thank you very much. But that your introduction, I have issues with that your introduction.
All right, I know you
We
are.
are public, and you know, some of those descriptions I will not ascribe to.
Yeah, of course.
It's always a delight to be part of your program.
Thank you so much. Thank you for coming.
Let me wish you and all your watchers and listeners a very happy and good luck filled 2014.
I like that new term, good luck filled 2014. Now 2014 is a make or break year for the president. A lot of people have said that, of course, if he's running for election, this is the year that he has to prove that he deserves one. If he's not running, this is the year that he has to make his mark and his legacy. Is there any sense of urgency within the presidency?
There has been a sense of urgency within the presidency right from day one. You will recall that one of the first messages that President Jonathan put out to Nigerians was to make it clear that, look, 4 years is not even enough for a president. And it was a metaphorical statement. It was a way of conveying to Nigerians that, look, the job of an incumbent president is an urgent one. The framework that he has, the time frame that he has, is a framework within which he has to do a lot. And what he has been able to do is historic. And I think that that needs to be clearly underscored. We have never had a president in this country who will come to Nigerians and present them with a road map. President Jonathan gave Nigerians a roadmap right from day one to say that we're committed to an agenda to transform Nigeria. And that transformation agenda has clear content. And this is the content. And he defined the content. And what he has done in the last 2.5+ years is to show Nigerians that he's a man who promises and delivers. That he's a man who is committed to transforming the lives of Nigerians. That is a man who is committed to the oath of office that he took. That is a man who is keenly aware of the fact that Nigerians indeed want progress and transformation. Some characters have been going around saying that 2014 is about change. They are not saying anything original. In fact, what they are saying is practically unintelligent. Because transformation, the word transformation, which President Jonathan originated, is in itself about change. So you find a lot of characters parroting him and trying to imitate him and saying nothing. And the unfortunate thing, of course, is that you find a ready crowd of insufficiently educated persons who parrot the same thing. So for 2014, there is indeed a sense of urgency. And to prove that, I would like to refer you to the speech, or rather the message that President Jonathan released on January 1, 2014, his message to Nigerians. If you look at that message is a message of consolidation. It is a message in which President Jonathan says, look, I, Goodluck Azikiwe Jonathan, I remain committed to my contract with Nigerians. And in this year of 2014, it is a year of consolidation. And he outlined some of his achievements in the agricultural section, in the aviation section, in terms of achievements, in terms of providing stability, in terms of providing freedom of expression and general fundamental human rights for Nigerians, in terms of the provision of infrastructure, in terms of ensuring that Nigeria continues to grow in terms of stature and brand within the international community. And he says these are just some of the achievements.
Okay, Reuben, let's
what we have achieved. will do more.
Yeah, I know. Dr. Abati,
that shows a sense of urgency.
Okay. Let's keep the answers brief so that we can get to several questions. Our viewers are really interested in many things. Now, we marked 100 years of as a nation, and the president is planning a big event to mark that. Can you give us insight into what is being planned?
Well, you know, the celebration of the 100 years of Nigeria coming into being, it's not even just a government affair. It's a government, private sector affair. It's not a federal government affair. It's a federal government, state government, local government, private sector, because what government has been able to do is to mobilize a sense of collective ownership around the idea of the amalgamation. But to address President Jonathan's position, President Jonathan says that, look, the amalgamation was not a mistake. It was certainly not a mistake, but a blessing. In 100 years of our coming together, Nigeria has, according to Professor Onigu Otite, in his book on ethnic nationalism, and if you also check the other books on the same subject, you'll find that the scholars have said, look, we have over 400 ethnic nationalities. Those over 400 ethnic nationalities over the years have remained very vibrant, very strong, very vocal, and all that, right? For reasons related to constitutionalism, space, equity, justice, and all of that. But over 100 years, we have all remained together. The beauty of this country, according to President Jonathan, lies in our diversity, lies in the strength, the beauty, the uniqueness that our diversity offers us. Okay. And he says it all the time.
Okay, Doctor.
And he says that 100 years later, the coming together of Nigeria, the northern and the southern protectorates, provides us an opportunity to celebrate, to reflect, to take stock, to further promote the Nigerian brand and image, and to also strengthen the ties that bind us together. That is President Jonathan's position.
Okay, Dr. Abati, let me go through what some of the things that prominent Nigerians have said. We know that Shoyinka called it a mistake, the amalgamation. Akinjide called it a fraud. We just spoke to Professor Sage, who said it was really a failure. Now, if Nigeria was such a success, why are we having a national conference the same year that we are marking 100 years of Nigeria's existence? Isn't that an acknowledgement that Nigeria has not worked?
Well, all those persons who said that Nigeria is a mistake, is this and that, they are not saying anything original. And I think that when we make some of these statements, we should contextualize them. I mean, long before now, somebody said Nigeria was a mere geographical expression. But Nigeria has survived beyond being a mere geographical expression, okay? The whole idea of Nigeria being a mistake, somebody said it, but Nigeria has gone through many moments, many seasons, and the country has remained together. And the truth out there is that the majority of Nigerians want to remain Nigerians. They don't want to belong to smaller countries. Ethnicity is not a problem. I think that's a point that has been proven by Omafume Onoge. You know, that ethnicity in itself can be a positive. The challenge that we face in this country is to see how ethnicity can be exploited in terms of its positive indications. And we have seen in many respects in this country in which, you know, the ethnic diversity can be to the advantage of the collective. Now, I do not think that the celebration is an error. There are many countries that did not even live to up to 100 years, that collapsed. And there are clear examples out there in the world, okay? And there are countries that you can mention in that regard, okay? The former United Soviet republics, you know, the former Yugoslavia, you can go on and on. The Nigerians have remained together. And I think that those people who are calling for the dissolution of Nigeria or the divisibility of Nigeria, they may well realize that we have an extant constitution in place. A constitution that says in one of its opening paragraphs that Nigeria is indivisible and is indissoluble as a sovereign state.
Yeah, but Dr. Abati, sometimes people wonder if people in government, they live in a bubble, So the fact that they said Nigeria is indivisible, that doesn't mean, most countries that divided or that collapsed were written that they were indivisible before they collapsed. So, but what I want to ask is this. You just mentioned the achievements of the president, and you talked about how he saw Nigeria and the future of the country as an indivisible nation. But do you think about how the people out there feel about the president and his achievements, how they feel about Nigeria at 100? Do you get the sense, people in the presidency, do they get the sense that Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians on the street, that they feel that things are going well, that this president has achieved all these things, and those achievements you mentioned, that he has impact on their daily lives?
Well, the point to make is that when you talk about Nigeria at 100, Nigeria at 100 is not in fact about President Jonathan's administration, which is just, just a few years. The sense in the villa and in the presidency and in government is that the celebration of Nigeria at 100 is about all Nigerians. It has nothing to do with the Jonathan administration. So when you take stock of 100 years of Nigeria, you are not taking stock essentially of the Jonathan administration. You are taking stock of everything that has gone before, from Lord Lugard to Richards, to Macpherson, to Robertson, to all the other persons, to Clifford, 1922, the Clifford Constitution, the Richards Constitution, Littleton was not a governor general, it was a secretary of state. All the way down to Macpherson, to 1960, okay? It's a whole history. And it's not just about colonial history. It's also about the heroes and the heroines of Nigeria. Okay, it's an opportunity for Nigerians to remember one of the major victims of our collective national aspiration and of open discourse, has been Nigerians having a strong capacity to remember. Okay, there is an era of temporocentrism, which means, a fixation with the moment, with the present. But what this celebration provides an opportunity to do is to remember from the beginning and to see that this is a country that indeed has a history, and that this is a country that has been blessed in many regards, and that the cynicism, the opportunism of the president, of the present, must be contextualized in terms of the past, the present, and the future. This is the intellectual point about it. So when you reduce it to the Jonathan administration, no, it goes beyond that. That's not how President Jonathan sees it. Okay. President Jonathan sees it in an historical context as an opportunity to reflect. And he said that on January 1.
Okay.
As an opportunity to look forward. An opportunity to plant legacies for the future.
Yeah,
that is how he sees it.
Dr. Abati.
Not in terms of this narrow, elementary, infantile, construction of history.
Now, Dr. Abati, the president has an opportunity that is a very unique opportunity to get Nigerians to come together for the first time, okay, in a national conference and decide the structure of that country that for the first time in the history, because all that we had in the past, constitutional conference, Nigerians were not really involved in that decision. We don't know yet how he plans to do this. We don't know the details about the conference, but we know it's happening in February. Now, does he have a vision of where or what he thinks is wrong with the structure of the country, why he wants to reform it through this conference, or where he wants the country to go after this conference?
Well, President Jonathan has spoken on this subject on many occasions, and he has made it very clear that his ambition, his vision, his projection, his plan, with regard to the national conference, is to provide an opportunity for a discussion, a debate, a conversation that will further strengthen the unity of Nigeria. He has extended that further by saying that he will not preside over an exercise that will result in the divisibility or the dissolubility of Nigeria. So he is looking for an opportunity whereby many of those contentious issues that are in the public domain will be brought to the table on a platform, and Nigerians will have an opportunity to talk about them and then resolve them, reach a decision over them, and then use that opportunity to impute those decisions into the making of the country. You will recall that all of this is against the background of certain other steps that have been taken by President Jonathan. One of the things he did was to call together, he set up a Begore committee, which was to look at decisions that have been taken in the past with relation to nation building, nation making, and all of that. And that committee submitted a report. Now, in the last political reform conference that was organized by the Obasanjo administration, it failed. Many Nigerians look forward to it as something that will provide a serious opportunity for moving the country forward. But that was aborted because it ended up as a discussion around, tenure elongation, third term as it was called, personal ambition as it was defined. Now, President Jonathan is now saying, look, some of those issues, let us resolve them for the benefit of the country. It has nothing to do about him. It is all about Nigeria.
All right.
That is his focus.
Okay.
If I may,
let's go to smaller issues. Let's look at power supply in the country. Now, I will play a video of the president speaking at the I think it was New Year in a church where he promised that power supply in Nigeria will improve by the middle of this year. Let's watch the video and then I'll ask you the question.
Yeah, since we have been able to do the first phase of privatization and generation and distribution has been handed over to the private sector, we believe that even before the middle of this year, power will be reasonably stable, and that will stimulate the economy.
Okay, so he said that because of the privatization of the power sector, he's confident that there will be improvement in power supply by the middle of this year. Now, this is not the first time he has promised improvement in power supplies. Is there any reason why he's very confident that this will happen? And what will happen if this doesn't happen?
No, it will happen. And I urge you to be optimistic and to be patriotic.
But it's not me. I'm not in charge of the power. It's him that is in charge of the country.
Fine, but let me give you the background in terms of the details. Now, you recall that when President Jonathan took over government, when he assumed office, to put it as it should be, power supply in this country was about 2,224 megawatts or thereabouts. Okay? And this was in spite of the fact that the previous administrations had tried to put in place NIPPs, and also put in place power plants, and also put in place all kinds of measures. But all of that ran into very serious controversy before President Jonathan took over. Even the Electricity Reform Act of 2005-2006 was suspended. So nothing happened. When he came to office, nothing was happening in the power sector. Now, in the last 3 years, what we have seen, and it's not about me talking about it, other Nigerians, ordinary Nigerians everywhere are talking about it, is that the President Jonathan, activated what he called the power sector roadmap. That power sector roadmap had a number of objectives: to privatize the power sector, to encourage competition, to promote efficiency, to ensure greater power electricity sector, electric power delivery, to ensure in that sector transparency, accountability, best practices, international standards. It's about 5 major plans. I don't have the document.
Okay, that's okay. We don't have to go into summary. We don't have to go into details. Okay, I know what is important to people.
No, let me give you the details because the details will provide you with the background. Now, he went into that sector, and what he did was first to deal with issues of regulation, deal with issues of infrastructure, deal with issues of management, and all of that has led to a situation whereby last year, this 2013, President Jonathan successfully ensured the formal privatization of GENCOs, those are the generating companies, and the distribution companies called discos, 14 of them total. And all of that was televised.
Yeah.
And he also had the buy-in of the state government.
Dr. Abati,
As we speak now, the GENCOs and the DISCOs, the private sector, who will drive competitiveness and efficiency, they've taken over.
Yeah, Dr. Abati, but let me say this. Let me say this.
Have been commissioned.
I know. Dr. Abati, our viewers are very, very well informed about what's going on in government. And what they ask us and what they expect is results. They don't expect roadmaps. They don't expect all these details you are giving us. They want results. And so far, the results have not shown that there is an improvement. But leave it at that. This is the question I want to ask you, because I wanted to get your view about that privatization. Now, you had a press conference this week where you came out and said that the refineries are not going to be sold. Now, if the privatization is going to make the power sector work, why are we not going to sell the refineries?
Well, I will plead with you to let me finish my original line of thought. But I'll be quick, because you say your viewers and your listeners, they don't want to listen to the process. But the truth of the matter is that you can't deliver without due process. It is the due process that will lead to, service delivery. And I was just trying to tell your viewers and your listeners what President Jonathan has been doing, because this is a man who believes in due process. Now, to settle that matter quickly, when President Jonathan took over, this country had 2,224 megawatts of electricity supply. Today, that's not where we are. That is progress. That is transformation. We have over 10,000 megawatts of installed capacity. In terms of evacuation, we don't have up to 10,000 megawatts. But we have over 5,000 megawatts where when there are problems and all that, it fluctuates. But we are not where we were in terms of power supply in 2007 or 2010. To come to the issue of the refineries, I think we must give the Jonathan administration very good credit for the fact that gas supply, which many of the industries, many of the state-generated power plants were relying upon, was an issue before this president took over. But it is no longer an issue. There are states in this country that have their own power plants running, and Lagos State is an example. Okay, people praise Lagos State government and all that, but what they don't realize is that, look, the gas flow system that has been prioritized and made efficient by this administration is part of what is yielding that result.
Dr. Abati, let me...
You talked about the refineries. What I said...
No, before you go to the refinery, let me ask you, because you mentioned something that is interesting. If the president is very confident that this is going to improve, why did he budget millions for generator supply, for buying gas and generator in Aso Rock for this year? That's the question our viewers are asking. If actually that this is going to work and we are going to have improvement, why are we still budgeting millions for generator supply for Aso Rock and other government agencies, including embassies?
No, you tried to suggest this question before we came onto this program, and I told you very clearly.
But no. I know we're not talking about budget, but I'm just saying that if you're talking about generation of electricity coming up.
No, I told you that, look, the budget details.
I
have not yet received them to study them line by line, and that I'm not going to rely on hearsay.
Okay, all right, leave it.
I make that clear to you.
Okay, leave
it.
However,
what you must realize is that within the power sector, all the things that President Jonathan has put in place, they are in a transitional phase. Okay? So if there is any provision for generator or whatever, these are things that intelligent people should expect within the transitional phase. But President Jonathan is confident that with what he has done, with the privatization and the efforts that have been made, that we even do a lot more better, even get to the extent of 24 hours electricity supply.
Okay.
But these are human situations. These are things that are handled by human beings, and you must prepare for contingencies. But we are a lot better in this country today than we were in 2007 in 2010.
Of course.
You must admit that, and a lot of Nigerians admit that, and we praise those Nigerians who are honest enough to say that the transformation that we promise is real.
Of course, Dr. Abati, I mean, Obasanjo spent over $16 billion, and we've spent billions, and we expect that there should be improvement.
And Nigerians in darkness.
Yeah, there should be improvement. If we are not getting, if we keep spending, if we've been keeping spending,
give him the credit.
Okay, if we've been spending billions and we don't see any improvement, that would be disastrous. But most people are still saying they don't see. But let's leave that. I want you to address the issue of the refineries. Why are we not privatizing them? If it's going to work for the power sector, why are we leaving the refineries out there in government control?
Well, I've told you already that in terms of gas supply, this government has been very efficient. And the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria, you know, their president is even a member of the economic management team. They even came as a special delegation to praise this president for what he has done, to check the drift of companies from Nigeria. And they cited specifically the fact that the gas supply has become very efficient and it has been cheap and affordable. That is one leg of it. Now, the second leg of it about the refineries, what I made clear is that President Jonathan has not yet given an approval for it. But you must realize that the issue about the privatization of refineries is a perpetual issue in Nigeria. The National Council of Privatization has discussed it perpetually. Efforts have been made perpetually to look at this issue. I know some people will say he's using the word perpetually. But what I mean is that it is a living subject. And it's an issue that has also been brought by the relevant agencies before President Jonathan. But President Jonathan has not yet given an approval that the refineries that should be privatized. But it's an issue that is being discussed in government quarters. And there are persons who feel very strongly that those refineries should be privatized. Okay? And so when you read in the papers, this person talks about this, that person talks about that, and all that, you know, it's because it's a living subject.
So are you saying
but
now?
What I said this week is to say, look, the president has not given an approval yet. He may give the approval whenever, but he has not done so yet. And I made that statement in the context of the threat by Pengasan and Nupen to go on strike. And I said that there's no basis for their strike because there is no subsisting approval yet.
So
justify their strike.
Yeah.
So if they say they want to go on strike, then we will accuse them of playing politics.
Yeah. So Dr. Abati, are you saying
nothing cannot stand on nothing?
So Dr. Abati, you said that you're saying that the Minister of Petroleum, who has been going around saying that she's going to privatize it, is on her own, like not talking for herself and not consulting anybody in government, or you are saying that you are holding up, you are just pulling back so that there won't be any strike. Which one is it?
Well, under Section 5 of the Constitution of Nigeria, President Jonathan is the head of the executive body and he has powers to take executive decisions. So I'm saying clearly that if the president has not taken a decision, that decision does not exist. That's what I'm telling you.
Okay.
And
when do we trust?
If you have an information, and I said that the president has not taken that decision, that is where we stand.
Yeah. When do we trust what the minister is saying?
It's head of government.
Yeah. When do we trust what the Minister of Petroleum is saying? Or do we have to wait until the president says something, then we know it's right? Because most people were basing their calculation on what the minister has been saying since last year, that this is going to happen in January. And then all of a sudden, we now know that it's not going to happen.
But I've just told you that there is a National Council of Privatization, there is a Bureau for Public Enterprises, there's a Ministry of Petroleum Resources, and that the discussion about privatization of refineries is an eternal discussion. Even the committee that was set up on it even made that recommendation. Okay?
So I take it that
government has not taken a decision. You are not going to say that government has taken that decision.
Okay. So,
and I'm saying that the president has not given that approval. The president has not yet taken. He may take that decision later.
But is the president going to?
But as at this moment, that decision
I understand that.
Exist.
So is the president?
Pengasa and Nupeng, they cannot say they want to go on strike on the basis of nothing.
So will the president now? Will the president now tell the Minister of Petroleum not to go about saying that she will privatize the refineries, because she's confusing the populace?
Well, you are the one saying so.
All right, let's leave that topic. Let's leave that topic. There's another thing that the president said. This was during the Christmas service in a church in Abuja. He was talking about Boko Haram and terror in Nigeria. Let's play that clip and then get your reaction.
Any country that is interested in terror, you readily get out of it. Look at Pakistan.
All right. I hope you had that, but I'm sure you're familiar with that.
I didn't see it, because,
oh, you didn't see that, but you are familiar with that. Basically, he said that any nation.
You tell me what the clip you are playing.
Okay, he said that any nation that is infested with terror hardly gets out of it, something like that. And I know that it caused a lot of headache for you, because you issued a press release saying that the media, they were twisting the words of the president. Do you have a change of heart about that? Because he
clearly... No, it's not a change of heart. I issued a statement clarifying that statement and accusing the media of being mischievous and of misrepresenting the president and of playing politics. What you must realize is that the media, as we have it in Nigeria today, is heavily in the hands of the opposition. An opposition that is desperate, an opposition that is censorious, an opposition that you may even say, is criminal. Although I will put that in quotes. So whatever it is that the president says, they twist it, they turn it around, they try to decontextualize it. And my clarification, I think, I plead, I urge, is what you should focus on. And what my clarification said is that, look, a president who is doing everything to solve the problem of Boko Haram cannot come around and say that it's a problem that cannot be solved. All he was saying was that, look, this is a major challenge. And it's not a challenge only for Nigeria. In that same statement that he made in that church, he drew attention to the fact that even the UN building was affected. And his whole point is that this is a challenge for the whole world. But that this government is doing everything possible to deal with the problem. And in subsequent statements, at other churches, when he was in other churches, most recently at the Pro Cathedral, Agnes Cathedral, Church of Agnes, Pro Cathedral, something like that, in Abuja, he addressed the problem. At the Apostolic Church, after the service, he also addressed the issue. To say that, look, when Nigeria was confronted with the Boko Haram phenomenon, I think he also addressed it in his New Year message. And he said, the Boko Haram problem is an inherited problem. It's a global problem. And that is why Nigeria is working in partnership with the neighboring countries. We're in the Lake Chad Commission. The Lake Chad Commission, the Lake Chad Joint Commission created the multinational joint task force. Okay, so other countries are involved in it. The United States has made several pronouncements on this same problem of terrorism and insurgency. Canada, most recently, made a statement supporting the Nigerian government. The United Kingdom is also in support of the Nigerian government. So we are working together with our neighbors, with ECOWAS, with the international community. So he says that, look, this is a serious challenge that is everywhere in the world. But this government is committed to solving the problem because the primary commitment of this government is to the security and welfare of the Nigerian people. You can check all the speeches that have been made on this subject by President Jonathan. He has made all of that very clear. So for an editor or a lazy reporter to come around and say the president says that this is a war that cannot be won, no.
All right.
President Jonathan believes that the fight against terrorism is a fight, is a battle, is a war that is winnable. And he believes, he is convinced, and many Nigerians are convinced, and they praise him for it, that his administration is winning the war and is making progress.
Okay.
And that where we were in 2002 when the problem started is not where we are today. Because he has succeeded in strengthening the security agencies, in bolstering the confidence of the security agencies, in even bolstering the confidence of the communities, and engendering the ownership of the local communities in the most affected areas, and also in dispelling the regime of fear that at a time enveloped the country, and also in displacing the terrorists and the insurgents and pushing them and insisting that the terrorism, the sovereignty of Nigeria is non-negotiable, and that this is a sovereign state, and a president is in place who will not accept a situation whereby anybody plants a flag or threatens the sovereign integrity, the territorial integrity of Nigeria. That is our position.
All right, all right. Let's talk about corruption, because several times in the past, when we talk about corruption, the president is always saying that he cannot go and grab people and put them in jail because they were accused of corruption, that the judiciary will have to go their way and do their thing, and he will do his thing. But recently, this year, he came out and said that he's going to fight corruption more aggressively than before. What is he going to do? Is he going to step on the judiciary? Is he going to make them move faster?
Well, I mean, you must be referring to the president's New Year message, in which he addressed the issue of corruption. And I've seen a number of people around the place, you know, the internet and others, saying the president did not talk about corruption. And I said, look, these people, are they educated at all? Do they even read? Because, I mean, not less than 3-4 paragraphs in the president's speech was, in the president's message, was devoted to the issue of corruption. And what the president is saying is that, look, Nigerians are concerned about corruption. He too is just as concerned about corruption. And he is not just concerned, he is taking very serious steps to deal with the problem. But you know, we have a febrile, hypertensive opposition that seems to have taken charge of the social media and all that, and they keep harassing us, and we are going to address. Last year, January 2013, I said, look, we will not give the opposition a chance. They still got a little chance during that year. But this 2014, we're going to match them line by line, word for word. And what Nigerians must realize is that we're dealing with politics. And as we move closer to 2015, a lot of people will come online, they will use the terrestrial media to tell a lot of lies, but we will not allow them to get away with it. Okay,
Dr. Abati, I know.
And this issue, let me finish.
Okay.
This issue of corruption is one of those issues. So I refer you to the president, to the statement made by the president, and I will try to outline, if you will allow me, if you have enough time.
Yeah, we don't have enough time. Just briefly tell us, what is he going to do differently this time that he didn't do in 2013, especially?
What he will continue to do, because the thrust of his New Year message is about consolidation. It's about continued commitment. Is that one? This administration will continue to fight political corruption, because political corruption is grand corruption.
Yeah, but what is the different thing he's going? I mean, for instance, he has this report on Stella Odoa for more than many weeks now, and nothing.
No, don't individualize it.
I know, we are not, but that's how Nigerians are seeing these things. So if you say that you are going to do something differently, what are you going to do? You haven't done anything about the past.
No, I've made this point before, and I may well repeat it again.
Okay, go ahead.
Nigerians, you know, many years after the consistent introduction of democracy, we're still suffering from a hangover, a military hangover. And people think that a president deserves credit for fighting corruption when he's seen to be dragging people on the streets, as some people did, tie people to a car and drive them on the road. Or, you know, you just take people on the basis of trial by media and you humiliate and destroy them. We have a president who says he is committed to the rule of law. He is committed to due process. If you push him to violate the rule of law, he's not going to accept it, because he will tell you that this is a democracy and he must follow the rule of law. He's not going to ask the system to punish or demonize a person against whom prima facie and concrete evidence and has not been under the justice administration system. That is not going to happen. And that was what he said earlier on, that in a democracy, you don't have to have a man who behaves like a soldier, because this is a democracy. Okay. So that principle is well established, and it applies to some of the cases. However, if you look at what this administration has done, this is the first administration that has fought political corruption frontally. One fellow wrote a letter in which he was saying that this president is not loyal to the PDP and all that. What was his comment? His comment was that this president is not grabbing elections for the benefit of the PDP, the ruling party. But this president says, look, if we have an election, the election must be transparent, it must be accountable, it must be free and fair, it must be based on the principle of one man, one vote, one woman, one vote, one youth, one vote.
Okay.
And he has refused to interfere in any election. Today, he's even been demonized by those who consider themselves the headmaster of Nigeria, by those who consider themselves the custodians of the Nigerian state. And yet, some people will come and say the man is not fighting corruption. The same people who have benefited from his transparency, from his accountability. And in those places where the PDP lost and other parties won, this president has been the first person to congratulate them. Where were you? You were in this country, and in Edo State. The Edo State PDP was even accusing the president that why should the president congratulate the opponent who won the election? So we have a man who is humble, a man who is open, a man who is honest, and some elements, some characters are saying that is not what they want. Now, look at that as one example, political corruption. Okay, grand corruption, as it may be classified academically. This president has remained committed to it. Now, even take a look at the system, the civil service system. Yeah, I was in the private sector, I came here, public servant, they call people like us. Look, one of the first things that this president did was to fight the evil of ghosts, which was a major center of leakage and wastage within the system.
Dr. Abati, I know you have a lot to say. If you can give me, maybe we can take a break and come back. But we really have to take a break. You know.
I would like to talk about this issue.
I know you will. Let's take a break and then no, we will. Let's take a break and we'll come back and then we finish up, please.
Since we are able to do the first phase of privatization.
Okay. We'll take a break. When we come back, we continue our discussion with Dr. Abati.